Let's move on now to a look at what's been making waves on the internet in Media Watch with James Creedon. And James, first of all, you've been looking at the media coverage of those controversial labour law reforms which were announced here in France this Thursday.
That's right. It is the big news story in France today. You go on any news website, it's the story that's dominating the coverage. You go on Twitter, it's ordonnance, decree is the top hashtag. Not a very buzzy word usually, but this is something that's occupying a lot of space in the French media today. So you have ordonnance, 39 or so decrees that are being used to reform the infamous French labour code, which is a very clear set of protections of labour rights, etc. And we're not going to go into the 39 decrees because that would make everyone switch over. But let's just look at how it's being broken down or simplified in headlines. This is Politico.eu, kind of a website based in Brussels that looks at European politics. Emmanuel Macron faces down French sacred cow. In other words, those labour law protections. They've broken those 39 decrees down into 5 key points. I'll quickly go through them. More emphasis on in-house labour talks as opposed to sector-level discussions. So giving more freedom to companies to do as they please. A firm global economic health can't be used to oppose plans to fire workers. So basically easing up hiring and firing. A set scale for damages in the event of wrongful dismissal. A red tape slashed for firms with more than 50 employees. Changes to short-term job contracts, but not to long-term ones. That's how Politico has broken it down. It's very complex. For French people, it would be a lot of... But they're hearing a lot now since Emmanuel Macron, since his campaign and since he got into office, about the need to push forward with these reforms. So now it's happening, essentially, or it's being planned.
James, what are the French government's main talking points and how are they being relayed by the media?
Well, critics are saying that there's a real attempt to talk about these, a reduction in labour protection, if you like, as something positive, something good for the labour market as a whole. So you're having a lot of positive language coming out of the Prime Minister's office and the President's office saying that these labour reforms, they're ambitious, they're balanced, they're fair, this is the way the government needs to go, or the reforms need to go. Macron and Philippe prefer to talk about transformation as opposed to reforms. So you can see that the language that is being used is very carefully thought through to make it all sound positive, progressive, forward-looking and not negative in any way. Emmanuel Macron, about a week ago when he was in Bucharest, said that France is a country that is unreformable. He made a lot of comments that day that were, I suppose, in this direction. He said it's not a reformable country. We have tried. Many have tried and they have not succeeded because the French hate reforms. So that word reform really being rejected because it's associated with a lack of mobility in that regard. And transformation is the word that is. You can see it very clearly in this headline. The French hate reform, but France will be transformed. So the choice of language, I think, is key here to attempts to push those reforms through.
And James, you've been looking, of course, at reactions online and you found some cartoons in response to Macron's reform plans.
That's right, some comments and some cartoons. Manu, he's so right when he says that the French hate reform. So some people actually on Twitter saying, yeah, we agree with the president, even calling him informally Manu. We do hate reforms, and you can see that coming through in the cartoons as well. Here is the Labour Code, which is actually a red book. That is how it is. And the risk of protests here. So is he going to set fire, if you like, to the Labour Code, which will then even create massive protests? There is a risk of that. This is another image showing how some feel about reforms to the Labour Code. And there's this one, winter is coming, hashtag ordonnance, hashtag decrees. So there you go. Just a quick look too at how some people are speaking positively of these reforms, Thomas, on social media, because of course it's not all one-way traffic. Some saying here that all of these reforms seem positive to me. We have to adapt with the evolution of the workplace. And some saying we can't keep having the same bases that we had 50 years ago. People don't seem to understand this. In other words, the protections that were there 50 years ago have to move now. And I'll just finish with this one tweet. We saw that his popularity rating, his approval ratings have sunk massively, even historically quickly. Macron learning that the French hate all their presidents and so he should just push through with his reforms and let that be his legacy. Maybe that's what his thinking is right now. I don't know.
James Creedon with Media Watch. Thank you
Thanks
very much.